Faith communities and social service organizations have a long history of working together to help people. We usually think of things like donation drives and food pantries, which are an important part of ministry. But these help one person, one family at a time.
But we know that many people find themselves facing troubles because of bigger issues. Those issues are often a result of policies that create unjust circumstances that leave people unable to meet their needs. And these bigger issues must be addressed through advocacy.
We've come together to raise our voices on behalf of disenfranchised and underserved people in Arizona. And it's our prayer and our hope that you will join us.
As Lutherans and members of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, we believe that we are freed in Christ to serve and love our neighbor. God uses our hands through our direct service and our voices through our advocacy efforts to restore and reconcile God's world. Through advocacy, we live out our Lutheran belief that governments can help advance the common good. Lutheran Advocacy Ministry in Arizona, or LAMA, is the state public policy office of the ELCA and a ministry of the Grand Canyon Synod. LAMA serves the congregations and Lutheran institutions in Arizona, providing resources, training, and information in the work of being a church that cares for our neighbor. Churches have an important role to play in advocacy, specifically in reminding our elected officials of their broad responsibility to care for the common good. I encourage each congregation in Arizona to connect with LAMA for assistance in what advocacy could look like in your context.
As a parish pastor in the ELCA for 37 years, I know we are called to put our faith in action and to speak out for those in need. Advocacy is not a new concept. It has biblical roots in the centuries before Christ's birth. In the Old Testament, the most often stated command is this: "You shall care for widows, orphans, and foreigners in your land." That command appears 103 times in the Old Testament. When Jesus was asked, "What is the greatest commandment?" he responded with, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, body, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself." That second part, loving our neighbor, is the call to advocacy. It was that very call that led Martin Luther to encourage the faithful to speak out about injustices for the elderly, for children, the poor, and refugees. He taught that good government is God's intention, and when governments turn away from caring for the poor, people need to become advocates, and history shows that advocacy works. More than 50 years ago, a Kansas church women's group wrote letters to legislatures about concern for mothers with nutritionally at-risk babies. Others soon followed, and their efforts led to the enactment of the National Women, Infants, and Children's Program, known as WIC, a program that today serves 50% of Arizona women and children. This is just one example of the power of ordinary people using their voice for the common good. There are many more stories like this one, whether it is providing nutrition for pregnant women and infants, hot breakfast and lunch for at-risk school children, addressing affordable housing needs for seniors or veterans, or supporting the resettlement of fully vetted refugee families. Advocacy changes policy. Advocacy is not something hard or scary. It's simply communicating with policymakers who are elected to represent us, their constituents. As people of faith, we use this power of advocacy on behalf of our neighbors. Care for those that are often hidden or forgotten is central to our understanding of God's call to faithful living. As Lutherans, it is a central part to our baptismal life.
I'm one of 5 generations of social justice and advocacy-focused family members. We didn't have any special training or knowledge. We just cared deeply about our community, social change, and making the world a better place for all. You can do this as well. The word advocacy can sometimes be perceived as something scary or political that requires a certain skill set or talent or a specific task, like protesting at the Capitol, creating a policy, becoming a lobbyist, or running a political campaign. The reality is that advocacy is just about educating people while building relationships and community in the interest of the common good. The truth is that many of us are already advocates in our daily lives, helping individuals and families around us and speaking out on behalf of others. Many of us already have a heart for advocacy, which is crucially important when learning how to advocate on a larger or political scale. And if you think that getting involved at a deeper level means that you'll have to get enmeshed in the often tumultuous and polarized rhetoric of politics, there is good news for you. You don't, and you shouldn't. There are many ways to encourage your congregation to focus on the issues of social justice and education on those issues. It is important to note that helping those experiencing struggles means that we have the courage to speak out on their behalf. We can do this by remaining focused on the needs and stories of individuals. There are a number of ways that you and your congregation can get involved. You could do one, several, or many of these and make a big difference. You may find you really love it and want to get more engaged, maybe even run for office yourself. Educate your congregation, family, and friends about social justice issues in your community. What are the root causes and consequences of these issues? What policies, rules, or laws are helping or hurting members of your community? Take advantage of the resources of the Grand Canyon Synod. They are there to help you become an advocate. Invite Lutheran Advocacy Ministry in Arizona, known as LAMA, to connect with your congregation. A representative from this ministry of the Grand Canyon Synod of the ELCA can help to equip your congregation for advocacy through a presentation at worship or a ministry minute, by meeting with your social justice team and mentoring a LAMA liaison, through resources and education for adults or young adults, and much, much more. Lots of organizations have email distribution lists that you can subscribe to and learn more about the problems and concerns locally, statewide, and nationally. They can help you understand the issues and express your support or opposition to policies and legislation that are being considered. And they will often provide you with a template for letter or email writing. Find out who your local, state, and national elected officials are and start building a relationship with them. Reach out and like them on their social media accounts. Email them regularly about your concerns. Invite them to attend events in your congregation or community. Identify 3 or 4 people who can go to the state or national capital to meet with your representatives and senators. Your job is not to lobby, but rather to educate them on issues that should be important to them. Invite policymakers or their staff to meet with your social justice committee, pastor, tour your food pantry or other social ministry, and hear about the concerns that are being addressed in your church. We all know that churches and charities cannot solve all the problems facing our communities, but in conjunction with legislators and changing laws and policies and creating funding to support those who are struggling with employment, housing, food insecurity, access to health care, and so much more, we can truly make a difference. Your elected officials should represent your community, regardless of their or your political affiliation. But they can't know all of the issues because they're just folks like us. You have the knowledge about social issues and can help them understand what needs to change to improve your community. Educate your congregation, community, family, and friends about elections and the importance of voting. You will find many organizations that would be happy to do a presentation for you to help you engage more in civic participation. One of the best times to build a relationship with elected officials is while they're running for office. Volunteer to walk neighborhoods with them, put a yard sign in your front yard, or make phone calls for them.
It is my privilege to serve the Grand Canyon Synod as the director of LAMA. Our mission is to join with the most vulnerable of our society to voice our common needs in the public square, activating our faith in love. LAMA's ministry is based on ELCA social teachings and the ELCA Constitution, which reads in part, "This church shall advocate dignity and justice for all people, working for peace and reconciliation among nations, and standing with the poor and powerless, and committing itself to their need." It continues, "This church shall study social issues and trends, work to discover the causes of oppression and injustice, and develop programs of ministry and advocacy to further human dignity, freedom, justice, and peace in the world." LAMA's role is to encourage our church members to speak out at all levels of government and to provide the education, the tools, and the confidence necessary to do so. Through our annual Lutheran Day at the Legislature and LAMA Summit, our network of congregational LAMA liaisons, our weekly newsletter, partnerships with local, state, and national organizations, we offer congregations opportunities for connection, education, and engagement. Lutherans can and do make a difference when we use our voices to advocate for justice. It's our calling, it's our duty, and it's our right to do so. Thank you for all you are doing and for all you will do in the future on behalf of the most vulnerable of our society, your neighbors, your community, all God's people.
Before we can begin our advocacy journey, we need to remember our basic civics education. Or Schoolhouse Rock, I'm just a bill on Capitol Hill. Local, state, and federal elected officials work similarly to one another, but deal with different issues. For instance, refugee and asylum seeker policy is a federal issue that cannot be solved on a state level. Lack of affordable housing, living wage jobs are a local or state issue that could be addressed with additional state funding to support programs to help those in need. At the national level, we elect and often advocate with congressional members, the House of Representatives and the Senate. In Arizona, we have 9 congressional districts, and just like all states, have 2 senators. Representatives are elected for 2-year terms. Senators are elected for 6-year terms. Representatives should represent all of the constituents in their district, while senators serve the entire state. Both should serve the best interest of the people of Arizona, regardless of political party, and can help with federal issues like Social Security or passports or other issues related to federal law or agencies. The number of congressional districts that we have is determined every 10 years following the census. An undercount of the census can result in the loss of congressional representatives because there is a limit of 435 total representatives for the U.S. State and local governments function very similarly to the federal level. We have 30 legislative districts in Arizona with 2 state representatives and 1 state senator who are elected every 2 years. So there are 60 representatives and 30 state senators working on state-level issues, laws, policies, and rules. You'll notice that so far, everyone in Arizona gets 6 elected officials, 3 in Congress on the national level, and 3 at the state level in Arizona. And then we have policymakers at the local level. At the local level, there are even more elected officials for each county, city, school district, commissions, and so on. And all of these positions also exist to represent the best interest of the local people. The most important piece to remember when engaging in this work is relationship building. Elected officials are more likely to listen to your needs and opinions when they've gotten to know you and understand the stories that you are bringing them. Simply introducing yourselves to them and getting to know them is the first step. This can be done in person, via email or social media, or through letters. Also, contrary to popular belief, elected officials are not experts at everything. You have a unique opportunity to educate them about important issues and to hopefully impact how they vote. Elected officials are people with jobs and families, just like you and me. And just like us, they know about the things that they have experienced. But if no one in their family or workplace has struggled with the issues that we know many people have, they don't have a context for understanding what needs to change to improve the lives of all Arizonans. Never hesitate to tell them what is important to you and to stay in touch with them regularly about issues that matter to you. Elected officials have a genuine interest in knowing you and any constituents because that's how they know what is important to their constituents. You and your elected official may not see eye to eye on everything, but look for commonalities. If we look hard enough, we can always find common ground, even with those we disagree with on most issues. The desire to feel safe, to feel heard, and to have a say in our quality of life is shared amongst all of us and can be the springboard for conversations on tough topics. Finally, it is very important to express your gratitude for their service. They have a difficult job, and showing our appreciation for their willingness to take on the challenge can help build trust.
As you can see, advocacy is a ministry, a service, and a catalyst for change. Lutheran Social Services of the Southwest, as well as LAMA, devote their ministries to serving those in need. But it is a call that extends beyond our capacity. We need those who have a heart for helping others, for fighting inequity and injustice, for being a voice for the voiceless, for standing up for the unheard and the vulnerable. We need you. You already have the spirit of advocacy alive in your life. We invite you to use that spirit to show up in the world the best way that you can.
What you have to offer is important. Your voice is unique and it's vital. You've got the power in your hands to create the catalyst for change. Together, we can create impact, share our voices, and make a difference in the world. Will you answer the call?